Everybody, so this video is part 2 of the video I did last week, which was kind of like how to revive plants that aren't doing so hot. And I had a question in the comment section, so I thought I would make a part 2 and just address that. The question was, I don't have it right in front of me at the moment, but it was about why I deadheaded some of the flowers but not all of them, and how I choose. So in that video, I took a whole bunch of plants that were in their individual little seed pods that they come in that were not doing well. And the reason they're not doing well is because the little tiny bit of soil that they were grown in and shipped to the department stores in isn't adequate, because it doesn't have any nutrients. It's also not the right type of soil because it's like a seed starting soil, which doesn't have a ton of nutrients. It's looser, so roots can grow really well. So if you're not planning on planting your plants right away, you need to transplant them out of their little bitty pots and into something that has more soil and can hold more water. And I just had those plants sitting outside waiting for too long. That is exactly my fault. There was nothing wrong with the plants. So what I do when I find myself in that situation, because I do quite often, I'm very busy. I always have too many irons in my fire. I put them in what I call a sick ward pot, and they have a chance to revive. So I'm going to show you that here in a sec, but I wanted to explain first that there are several kinds of plants. There are your annuals, your perennials. There are your flowers that bury their dead, which mean that they self-deadhead, kind of, and they will continually grow new blooms. And then there's the ones that you have to deadhead, like geraniums, or they won't bloom again. Then there's your ground crawlers, or your ground covers, which you don't really deadhead at all, and they don't bury their own dead, but they're just extremely hardy. So they're meant to be kind of walked on and roughed up, and they're fine with that. And then, of course, your like leafy fillers. Okay, so this is how this pot is doing now. And as you can see, it's already doing much better than it was when I put them in here. You can just see everything is greened up, everything's a little taller. These pink ones have really started to thrive a lot better. These in the back, the little violas, they were doing very poorly, and they're starting to look better. And the reason I didn't deadhead any of these or trim back any of their dead leaves really was because they were already damaged. They were already struggling to survive. So I didn't want to shock them any more than I already had. That's why I also didn't rough up any of their roots. I just planted them in fertilized soil and made sure they had moist soil consistently for several days. Now that we are, golly, I don't even know how many days in we are now. We're almost 4 days probably since I did this. And they're already looking this much better. I would go in now. I was going to wait a few more days, but I wanted to get this video done. And I would go in now and take off all of these little yellow leaves. I just go in and pinch them off. Because obviously they are not needed. And it has new little leaves. See, it has these pretty little bitty green ones that aren't yellow, that it needs to put more energy into those instead of putting energy into these yellow ones. And I'm not going to, like, if the whole plant was yellow, I'd wait more days and see if it's pushing any more green ones. There's one hiding back here. You just kind of have to watch your plants, and they'll tell you, if you're paying attention, that they're ready. I mean, if they're doing really poorly, taking away their life source isn't going to help them do better. So I'm going to take all these little dead ones out. So these are geraniums in the middle here. And they fall under the having to be deadheaded, having to be maintained. They're not self anything. They like attention. These pink ones, they kind of fall under the leafy foliage, don't grow flowers. I'm going to give them more time because they are still having this situation happening, but they are pushing new leaves. See these pretty little leaves here? So I'll give them more time to think about what they're doing, and then when these little leaves get bigger, I'll go in here and I'll snip off these ones that have damage. This plant, I don't know what it was called. It was one of those I kept over and lost the tag all winter. I usually have a little trouble pruning these because this part is yellow. It looks dead, but then it'll grow this green sprout and flower on the top. So usually what I do with these is I just go in and I deadhead them. I just take I usually use my clippers, but I just pull their heads off here and they will push new blooms. These are considered ground covers, so they don't need to be deadheaded. Sometimes I go in when they're nice and if they're really crispy on the bottom, and I'll just get the dead out of the bottom. But these are recovering, so I don't like to rough them up too much. And if I felt like I needed to, like if the foliage up here on top wasn't starting to bloom now and was all yellow, but it was green under here, I'd take my snippers and I'd cut these back. But they're doing just fine. This, we still don't know what it is. These are just those little orange annuals. Again, I'm going to give it more time because it is trying and its leaves aren't in that bad a shape. And the violas are always interesting because they're another one that gets yellow on the bottom and green on the top. When they don't have enough of whatever they're needing, they kind of reach out. They start getting leggy. And then you have a problem where it's yellow on the bottom and green on the top. So if you start to have too much legginess, get ahead of it and cut them off, but leave green towards the base. You can't just cut them off where it's yellow and expect them to grow. They have to have green leaves at the bottom. But I am very pleased with how these are doing. They are doing much better. About a week or so and we'll transplant them out in the garden. Also going to throw in a little update here on the 3 planters that we did. They're on the porch and I just don't feel like moving them because this is where they hang out in the evenings out of the wind. But the 3 pots are doing really well. These are the geraniums that we deadheaded and kind of gave them more space, and we put this other one right in the middle where we were gapping, had a gaping hole here. So it is just doing great and everything is loving the fertilizer. The vinca vine is stretching out. I've got the other planter on top of it. Gracious sakes. You can't expect anything to be happy if you set something that's 10 pounds on top of it. Here we go. You know, real life right there. But everything has just gotten really deep colored and is just thriving. That fertilizer is major good for everything. The mums. So these are the mums that were not doing so hot that we pruned back. Same thing, mums do not bury their dead. They have to be deadheaded in order to push new blooms. And we're seeing some new little bloom pods. Like this right here will produce a flower. There's a whole bunch of them if you look really close. But these leaves are just frostbitten toasty. And I'm just going to let these get a little more established in their pot. Get a little used to the fertilizer because I am seeing a few little leaves in here. I just wanted to give it more of a chance before I start snipping off all these crispy ones. And this one in the back is a different kind of mum that I held over. And it's doing so well now that I trimmed it up. It was all leggy. It's starting to bush out, push in new little baby leaves. It's doing really good. And this one is super happy. It doesn't have nearly as many crispy leaves. And look at all these little bloom pods. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's going to have 8 flowers. Happy plant. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your flowers is the thing that scares you the most. And they are amazingly resilient. They just need water, fertilizer, good soil, sunshine, not too much sun. It's very overwhelming if you are new to it, or if you've paid a lot for a plant and you're just scared you're going to kill it. But if something's doing poorly already, it's probably going to die. So you might as well try. I mean, it's one of those little road barriers we all have to try to get over, that once you've done it a couple of times, it's not nearly as big of a deal as it seems right off. So give it a try, give it some confidence. I'll bet you that you know what you're doing, because if you're watching your plants, they'll tell you when something's wrong. So I hope that answered your question, and I hope that you are enjoying your evening as well, because it is finally beautiful here. The wind blew all morning, all afternoon, but it was about 6 o'clock and the wind finally died down, and we're working on other huge projects out in the yard. And I thought, oh golly, the wind's not blowing. I better get out here and film this video. But thank you guys so much for watching and for asking questions, because that really makes me thrive, and it makes me feel like I'm doing something that somebody's actually interested in. So any question, any comment is always welcome. Likes, shares, and subscriptions are always really thankful for all of those. And thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.